"Let me in, I'll reward you." Her promise would change everything. The rain had been falling all evening, soft at first, then harder, as if the sky itself was trying to wash the world clean. Mara sat on her small couch with a cup of tea in her hands, listening to the sound of the drops hitting the window. The apartment was quiet, except for the old refrigerator humming in the corner and the occasional car passing by outside. She had always liked rainy nights. They felt calm, like the whole city was taking a slow breath. Mara lived alone. She didn't have family nearby, and she didn't have many friends. She worked at a factory on the other side of town, and most of her days were spent doing the same routine. She would wake up early, eat a quick breakfast, go to work, come home tired, and then repeat it all over again. Some people might think it was a boring life, but Mara didn't mind. She liked having her own space. She liked the silence. It made her feel safe. Tonight was different, though. She felt a small nervousness in her stomach, a feeling she couldn't explain. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it was the quiet. Or maybe it was the fact that she had been thinking too much lately. Mara had been thinking about her life and how it seemed to be going nowhere. She had dreams once, but those dreams had faded over time, replaced by bills and responsibilities. She had learned to accept that life was just a series of days that passed without much change. As she took another sip of tea, she heard a soft knock on her door. At first, she thought it was the wind. The knock was gentle, almost shy. Then it came again, a little louder but still not forceful. Mara set her cup down and stood up slowly. Her heart beat a little faster. She walked to the door and looked through the peephole. She saw a young woman standing outside, soaked from head to toe. Her hair was wet and stuck to her face, but her clothes looked tired and wrinkled, like she had been walking for a long time. She held a small bag in her hand, and her eyes looked worried. The woman's face was pale, and she looked as if she had not slept in days. Mara hesitated. She didn't know this woman. She didn't know why she was standing at her door in the rain. She thought about calling the police, or at least asking her to leave, but something in the woman's eyes stopped her. There was a softness there, a kind of fear that did not feel threatening. It felt like the woman was not dangerous, but rather lost. Mara took a deep breath and opened the door a little. The woman looked up quickly, like she had been afraid someone would disappear if she blinked. "Please," she said softly, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bother you. I don't know where else to go." Mara stared at her for a moment. The woman's voice was quiet and polite, but it carried a sense of urgency. Mara noticed the shaking in her hands, the way her body seemed tense, as if she was trying to stay strong but could not. "Are you okay?" Mara asked, trying to keep her voice calm. The woman nodded, but it didn't look convincing. "My car broke down a few streets away," she said. "I was walking and I got lost. I saw your building and I thought, maybe you could let me in for a little while. Just to warm up. I promise I won't stay long." Mara hesitated again. Her mind ran through all the possible dangers. She had seen too many news stories about people being hurt when they trusted the wrong person. She had heard about scams and crimes. She knew she should be careful. But then she remembered something else. She remembered a time when she was younger and her mother had been sick. They didn't have much money, and sometimes they didn't have enough to buy food. There were nights when Mara had been afraid of the dark, afraid of being alone. She remembered how a neighbor once offered them soup and a blanket, even though they barely knew each other. That kindness had saved them, even if only for one night. Mara had never forgotten that feeling. She looked at the woman again. Her face seemed tired in a way that did not come from just being wet in the rain. It looked like the kind of tiredness that came from life itself. Mara opened the door wider. "Okay," she said. "Come in." The woman's eyes widened. For a moment, she looked surprised, like she hadn't expected the answer. Then a small smile appeared on her face, and she looked relieved. She stepped inside quickly, closing the door behind her. The warmth from the apartment hit her like a wave, and she breathed out slowly, as if she had been holding her breath for a long time. "Thank you," she whispered. Mara stepped back, allowing the woman to enter. She shut the door and locked it. Then she led the woman to the living room and offered her a towel. The woman took it gratefully and began to dry her hair. Mara could see her hands shaking less now, as if the warmth was helping her calm down. "What's your name?" Mara asked, trying to sound friendly. The woman hesitated for a moment. Then she said, "Lila." "Mara," she replied. "You can sit down. Do you want some tea?" Lila nodded. "Yes, please. I'm so cold." Mara went to the kitchen and put the kettle on. She could hear Lila moving around in the living room, quietly, like she didn't want to make noise. When the tea was ready, Mara brought 2 cups and sat down across from her. Lila held her cup with both hands, as if it was something precious. She took a small sip, and her face softened. "This is good," she said. "Thank you." Mara smiled. "You're welcome. You must be very tired." Lila looked down at her hands. "I am. I don't know why I ended up here. I didn't plan to come to your building. I was just walking and walking. I didn't know where else to go." Mara waited, expecting her to explain more. But Lila did not speak for a moment. Her eyes looked far away, as if she was remembering something difficult. Finally, she said, "I have nowhere else." Mara felt a tightness in her chest. She didn't know why, but hearing those words made her feel something strong. She had never been close to anyone like this before. She had always kept her distance. But now, listening to Lila, she felt a strange connection. "Are you safe?" Mara asked carefully. Lila nodded quickly. "Yes, I'm safe. I'm safe. I think so." Mara didn't know what to say. She wanted to help, but she didn't want to ask too many questions. She knew that some people did not like talking about their problems. Some people preferred to keep their pain inside. Lila looked up at Mara and spoke again. "I know you don't know me, and I know it's strange that I asked to come inside, but I promised myself something a long time ago." Mara raised her eyebrows slightly. "What did you promise?" Lila took a deep breath. "I promised that if I ever found someone who helped me when I needed it most, I would repay them. Not with money, not with gifts, but with something more important. I promised I would help them change their life." Mara stared at her. She didn't know what to say. She had expected Lila to say something like, "I'll pay you back," or "I'll give you money." But this was different. This was deeper. Lila continued, her voice steady now. "I know you didn't have to let me in. You didn't have to trust me. But you did, and I'm not going to forget that." Mara felt a warmth in her chest. She didn't know if it was because of the tea or because of Lila's words. She looked at Lila and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. For a moment, the rain outside seemed less loud. The apartment felt like a safe place, a small shelter from the world. Mara realized that her life had been quiet for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to have someone else in her space, someone who needed her. "Thank you," Mara said softly. "You don't have to repay me. Just rest." Lila nodded, but her eyes showed a mix of relief and something else. Something like determination. "I will repay you." she said quietly. I promise. Mara didn't know what that meant. She didn't know what kind of promise it was. But she felt a strange sense of curiosity, and she also felt a quiet fear. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew that her life had changed in some small way. The rain continued to fall outside, but inside the apartment, the air felt lighter. Mara watched Lila as she sat on the couch, wrapped in the towel, slowly warming up. She didn't know who this woman was or why she had chosen her apartment, but she knew one thing. The night had become something more than just another quiet evening. It was the beginning of something, and Mara could not yet understand how much that promise, "I'll repay you," would change everything. The next morning, the sun rose slowly, pushing its light through the clouds. The rain had stopped, but the world still looked wet and fresh. Mara woke up before her alarm, feeling something she could not explain. She looked around her small apartment, and for a moment she felt strange. The night before had been different. It had not been like her usual quiet evenings. She walked into the kitchen and made coffee. She tried to act normal, like nothing had changed. But the memory of Leela sitting on her couch, wrapped in a towel, was still fresh in her mind. Mara wondered if Leela was still asleep, or if she had already left. Mara checked her phone. There were no messages, no calls. The day looked ordinary, but Mara felt that it was not. She went to the living room and saw Lila sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. Her hair was still wet, but she looked calmer. She held a mug of tea and stared out the window. "Good morning," Mara said softly. Lila turned her head and smiled. "Good morning. Thank you again for letting me stay." Mara nodded. "You're welcome. Did you sleep okay?" Lila hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I slept a little. It was the first night I felt safe in a long time." Mara felt a strange feeling in her chest. She did not know Lila very well, but she could sense how tired she was. She could feel that Lila had been carrying a heavy burden for a long time. Mara sat down across from her. "You don't have to stay here if you don't want to," she said. "You can leave whenever you're ready." Lila looked at her carefully. "I know, but I don't want to leave yet." "Not yet. I need time to think. And I don't know where else to go." Mara understood. She could see that Lila was not only cold from the rain. She was cold in a deeper way. She looked like she had been alone for a long time, and she was not sure how to be around people anymore. "Okay," Mara said. "You can stay today." "Just for today." Lila nodded, and her eyes showed a small relief. "Thank you." Mara went to the kitchen again and prepared breakfast. She did not know what Lila liked to eat, so she made something simple: toast, eggs, and fruit. She placed the plate on the table and sat down. Lila ate slowly, as if she was not sure she deserved the food. Mara watched her carefully. Lila did not speak much, but Mara could feel her mind working. She could sense that Lila wanted to say something, but she was afraid to speak. After a few minutes, Lila finally spoke. "I want to tell you why I came here," she said. Mara nodded, encouraging her to continue. Lila took a deep breath. "I didn't just walk around and get lost. I was trying to escape something. I was trying to leave a place where I felt trapped." Mara's heart beat faster. She did not want to press Lila for details, but she wanted to understand. "You don't have to tell me everything," she said gently. "Only if you feel comfortable." Lila looked down at her hands. "I was part of a group that promised me a better life. They told me they would help me. They told me they would take care of me, but it was not like that. It was different. I realized I was being used. I realized I was being taken advantage of. Mara felt her stomach tighten. She did not like the idea of someone being used or taken advantage of. She could feel the sadness in Lila's voice, but she also knew that Lila was strong. She could see that she had survived something difficult. I didn't know how to leave, Lila continued. I was scared. I thought if I left, they would find me. I thought they would make my life worse. So I stayed. I stayed for a long time. Mara listened carefully. She did not interrupt. She wanted Lila to feel safe, to know that she could speak without being judged. Lila's eyes looked far away again, like she was remembering something from long ago. Last week, I decided I couldn't stay anymore. I packed a small bag and I left in the middle of the night. I walked and walked until my feet hurt. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I needed to get away. Mara... She could imagine how scary it must have been to leave everything behind, to walk alone, not knowing where you would sleep, not knowing who you could trust. I didn't have a plan, Lila said quietly. I just knew I needed to run. Mara nodded slowly. You did the right thing, she said softly. Lila looked at her with tears in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered, because I feel like I should have been smarter. I feel like I should have left sooner. I feel like I should have been able to handle it. Mara reached out and placed her hand on Lila's. You did what you could, she said. You survived. That's the most important thing. Lila looked down at their hands and then back up at Mara. I promised myself that if I ever got out, I would help others. I would not let anyone else feel trapped like I did. I wanted to find someone who could help me, but also someone I could help in return. Mara nodded, feeling a deep respect for Lila. She realized that Lila was not just asking for help. She was trying to change her life. She was trying to become a different person. After breakfast, Mara went to the living room and turned on the television. She did not know what else to do. She wanted to keep the day normal, to make it feel like nothing had happened. But she also wanted to be ready for whatever Lila needed. Lila sat quietly on the couch, staring at the screen. She looked like she was thinking deeply. After a few minutes, she spoke again. Mara, she said, I want to do something for you. Mara looked at her. You don't have to, she said. I know, Lila replied. But I want to. I promised. I promised myself I would repay you. Mara smiled gently. You don't have to repay me. Just being here is enough. Lila shook her head. No, I want to repay you. Not with money, with something else. Mara felt curious. What do you mean? Lila stood up slowly and walked to the window. She looked out at the street, which was now dry and bright. She turned back to Mara and said, I know things. I know things about the people who were involved in the group I was part of. I know their names. I know their patterns. I know how they operate. I didn't want to believe it, but I learned a lot while I was there. Mara's heart beat faster. She didn't know what to say. She was not sure what Lila was implying. Lila continued, I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to cause trouble, but I want to do something good with what I know. I want to help stop them from hurting others. Mara stared at her. She could feel the seriousness in Lila's words. She could feel the weight of what she was saying. Mara did not know if she should believe her, but she could see the honesty in her eyes. Do you think the police would help? Mara asked quietly. Lila nodded slowly. I think they could, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid they won't believe me. I'm afraid they will think I'm lying. I'm afraid they will think I'm part of it, and I don't want to go back." Mara understood. She knew that telling the truth could be scary. She knew that people often doubted others when they came forward. Mara took a deep breath. She thought about the promise Lila had made. She thought about the kindness she had shown by letting her in. She thought about the life she had been living, a life that was safe but quiet. She realized that this was the moment when her life could change, not just because of Lila, but because of what Lila was offering. "Okay," Mara said softly. "If you want to talk to the police, I will help you. I will go with you." Lila's eyes widened. She looked surprised, and then her face softened into a smile. "Really?" she asked. Mara nodded. "Yes, I will help you. But we have to do it carefully. We have to make sure you are safe." Lila's smile grew a little. "Thank you," she said. "I don't know how to thank you." Mara shook her head. "You don't need to. Just stay safe. That's enough." For the rest of the day, Mara and Lila talked. They shared small stories about their lives. Mara learned that Lila had always wanted to be a teacher. She had loved children and wanted to help them learn. But life had taken her in a different direction. She had been forced to make choices she never wanted to make. Mara shared some of her own story, too. She told Lila about her childhood, about the times she had struggled, and about the quiet life she had built for herself. As the sun began to set, Mara felt a strange calm. She felt like she was no longer alone. She felt like her life had a purpose, even if she didn't know what it was yet. Lila looked at Mara and said, "I promised you I would repay you. I don't know how yet, but I will. I promise." Mara smiled and nodded. "I believe you," she said. And in that moment, Mara realized that her promise to help Lila was not just about kindness. It was about choosing a life that mattered. The night came again, but this time it felt different. It felt like the beginning of a new story, and Mara could not imagine what would happen next. But she knew one thing for sure. She had opened her door to a stranger, and her life had already started to change. The next morning, the air felt different. It was not just the smell of coffee or the sound of birds outside. It was the feeling that something important was about to happen. Mara woke up early again, but this time, she didn't feel nervous. She felt ready. Lila was already awake. She sat at the table, writing something in a small notebook. Her face looked focused, like she was making a plan. Mara watched her for a moment, feeling a little curious. She wondered what Lila was writing. Mara poured 2 cups of coffee and brought one to Lila. Lila looked up and smiled. "Thank you," she said. "You seem busy," Mara said, trying to sound casual. Lila nodded. "I am. I'm writing down everything I remember. I don't want to forget anything. I want to make sure I tell the truth, and I want to make sure I do it right." Mara sat down. "That's a good idea. It's important to be clear." Lila nodded again. "Yes, Melody, I don't want to make mistakes." Mara took a sip of her coffee and looked at Lila. "Do you want to tell me more about what happened?" "Only if you feel comfortable." Lila hesitated. She looked down at her notebook. "Was pa." Then she looked back up. "I can tell you some things. Not everything, but some things." Mara nodded. "That's fine." Lila took a deep breath. "The group I was part of promised a better life. They said they would help me find work and a place to live. They said they would support me. At first, it sounded like a good idea. I was young and I wanted to believe them." Mara listened carefully, trying to understand. What changed? Lila's eyes looked sad. I realized they wanted me to do things I didn't want to do. They said it was for my own good. They said it was normal. They said it was just how things worked. I didn't know how to say no. I was afraid. Mara felt her heart tighten. She wanted to reach out and hold Lila's hand, to tell her she was brave. But she knew that sometimes the best support was simply listening. Lila continued. They made me feel like I had no choice, like I had to stay, like I would be lost if I left. I felt trapped. Mara nodded. She could imagine how difficult that must have been. She could imagine how heavy it would feel to be stuck in a situation where you felt you had no control. Lila's voice grew softer. There were times when I wanted to leave, but I was scared. I thought no one would believe me. I thought people would judge me. I thought I would be alone again. Mara leaned forward slightly. You're not alone now, she said. You have me. Lila looked at her, and for the first time, her eyes looked a little brighter. Thank you, she whispered. Mara felt a warm feeling in her chest. She realized that she was not just helping Lila. Lila was helping her too. Lila was giving her a reason to care about something bigger than her own quiet life. After breakfast, Mara suggested they go for a walk. She thought the fresh air might help Lila feel better. Lila agreed, and they stepped outside together. The sun was shining and the city looked bright. People were walking quickly, going to work or school. The world looked normal, like nothing unusual had happened. Mara and Lila walked slowly, talking quietly. Mara noticed that Lila kept looking around, as if she was checking to make sure no one was following her. Mara could tell that Lila was still afraid. She could tell that Lila had not fully recovered from the fear that had been in her life for so long. They walked to a small park nearby. The park was not big, but it had a few trees and a bench. Mara sat down on the bench and looked at Lila. How are you feeling? She asked. Lila sat beside her and took a deep breath. I feel better, she said, but I still feel scared. I keep thinking they might find me. Mara nodded. I understand, but you are safe right now. Lila looked at her and smiled. I know, but my mind keeps going back to the past. It's hard to stop. Mara thought for a moment. She wanted to say something that would help. She wanted to give Lila strength, but she didn't want to say something that would sound fake or too simple. Finally, she said, it's okay to feel scared. It doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are human. Lila looked at her and nodded slowly. You're right, she said. I know you are trying to help me. I'm grateful. Mara smiled. We can get through this, one step at a time. Lila looked down at her hands again. There's something else, she said. I think the people I left are looking for me. I'm not sure, but I feel like someone is watching. Mara's heart beat faster. She did not want to worry Lila, but she knew that if Lila was feeling this way, it might be real. She decided to be careful but not to show fear. We should be careful, Mara said, but we shouldn't let fear control us. We can make a plan. Lila nodded. What kind of plan? Mara thought for a moment. She did not know much about safety plans, but she knew one thing. They needed to be honest and prepared. We should talk to someone who can help, she said. A person who knows how to handle this. Maybe a counselor or someone from a community center. Lila looked surprised. You mean like a professional? Mara nodded. Yes, someone who can help you feel safe and strong. And maybe someone who can help you talk to the right people if you want to. Lila's eyes looked thoughtful. I don't know if I'm ready to talk to someone, she said quietly. I'm still scared. Mara nodded. That's okay. You don't have to do it right away. But we can start by finding a place where you can feel safe. Lila smiled slightly. Thank you, she said. You are very kind. Mara felt a small warmth in her heart. She realized that kindness was not just about giving food or shelter. It was about making someone feel human again. They stayed in the park for a while, talking about simple things. They talked about the weather, about their favorite foods, about small memories from their childhood. Mara noticed that Lila smiled more when they talked about simple things. It seemed to help her feel normal again. After the walk, they returned to Mara's apartment. Lila looked more relaxed than she had been the day before. She seemed to be slowly finding her balance again. Mara made dinner and Lila helped. They cooked together, and for a moment, it felt like a normal evening. Mara realized how much she enjoyed Lila's company. She realized that she had been lonely for a long time, and she had not realized it. After dinner, Lila sat on the couch and looked at Mara. Mara, she said, I want to tell you something. Mara turned to her. What is it? Lila took a deep breath. I think I know someone who might be able to help. Someone who works with people like me. A person who helps them start over. I heard about them from a friend. Mara looked surprised. That sounds good. Do you want to contact them? Lila nodded. Yes, but I don't know how to call them. I don't have a phone. I left everything behind. Mara nodded. You can use my phone. Lila looked at her, surprised. Really? Mara nodded. Yes, you can use it. Lila took the phone with shaking hands. She looked at it carefully, like it was a precious object. She dialed a number that she had written in her notebook. She waited. Her face showed a mix of hope and fear. After a few rings, someone answered. Lila's voice shook as she spoke. Hello, she said. My name is Lila. I was given this number by a friend. I need help. Mara watched her, feeling proud. She could see that Lila was taking a brave step. She was reaching out, even though she was scared. The person on the phone spoke calmly and kindly. Mara couldn't hear everything, but she could see Lila's face change. The fear in her eyes seemed to soften. After a few minutes, Lila hung up the phone and looked at Mara with tears in her eyes. They said they can help, she whispered. Mara smiled. That's great. Lila wiped her eyes. They said they can meet me tomorrow. They said they can help me find a safe place and talk to someone who understands. Mara felt a sense of relief. She knew that this was a big step for Lila. She knew that Lila was beginning to believe in herself again. Lila looked at Mara and said, I promised I would repay you. I don't know how yet, but I think I want to help others too. Maybe I can do something good with my life. Mara nodded. I believe you can. Lila smiled. Thank you for believing in me. Mara felt a deep sense of connection. She realized that the promise Lila made was not just a promise to repay her. It was a promise to change her life. It was a promise to become someone better. That night, Mara lay in bed and thought about everything that had happened. She thought about how a simple act of kindness had brought a stranger into her life. She thought about how much Lila had suffered and how brave she was to keep going. Mara closed her eyes and whispered softly, I hope everything will be okay. And for the first time in a long time, she felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. The next morning, Mara woke up feeling a strange mix of nervousness and hope. She knew today would be important. Lila was going to meet the person who could help her, and Mara wanted everything to go smoothly. She made breakfast quietly, trying not to wake Lila too early. But when she walked into the living room, she saw Lila already awake and sitting with her notebook open. Lila looked up when Mara entered. "Good morning," she said softly. "Good morning," Mara replied. "Are you ready?" Lila nodded. "Yes, I think so." Mara could see the tension in Lila's face. She was trying to be brave, but she was still afraid. Mara understood. She had been afraid before too many times. She knew how hard it was to take the first step toward change. Mara poured 2 cups of coffee and sat beside Lila. "Remember," she said gently, "you don't have to say everything. You can take your time." Lila nodded. "I know, but I want to tell them the truth. I want to be honest." Mara smiled. "That's good." They spent the morning getting ready. Mara helped Lila choose clothes that looked neat and comfortable. They both wanted Lila to feel confident. Mara also packed a small bag with water, snacks, and a few extra items, just in case. When it was time to leave, Mara felt a strange feeling in her chest. She wanted to protect Lila, but she also wanted to respect her independence. She knew Lila needed to feel like she was making her own decisions. They walked to the meeting place together. It was a small community center in the city, a place that offered help to people in need. The building looked simple, but it felt welcoming. There were posters on the wall about support programs and events. There were a few people sitting in the waiting area, quietly talking or reading. Mara and Lila sat down on a bench. Mara could feel Lila's hands trembling slightly. Lila held her notebook tightly, like it was a shield. After a few minutes, a woman came out and introduced herself. She was middle-aged, with kind eyes and a calm voice. She wore a name tag that said, Ms. Hana. She smiled at Lila and Mara. "Hello," she said. "You must be Lila. I'm Ms. Hana." "Thank you for coming." Lila stood up and nodded. "Thank you for meeting me." Miss Hana guided them to a small office. It was quiet and private, with a table and 2 chairs. The room felt safe. Mara sat down, and Lila sat beside her. Hannah closed the door gently. "Would you like some water, Ms.?" Hana asked. Lila nodded. Ms. Hana handed her a bottle of water and then sat down across from them. "Lila," Ms. Hana said softly, "I want you to know that you are safe here. You can speak freely. Nothing you say will be judged. We are here to help." Lila looked down at her hands. She seemed to be trying to hold back her emotions. Mara could feel how strong Lila was being, just by being there. Miss Hana continued, "You don't have to tell me everything today. We can take it step by step, but if you feel ready, you can start by telling me what happened." Lila took a deep breath. She looked up at Ms. Hana and began to speak. At first her voice was quiet, but as she continued, her voice grew stronger. She told Ms. Hana about the group she had been part of, about the promises they had made, and about how she had felt trapped. She told her about the fear she had lived with and the decision she had made to leave. Mara listened quietly. She felt proud of Lila for speaking honestly. She also felt a deep sadness for everything Lila had experienced, but she knew this was a step forward. Ms. Hana listened carefully. She did not interrupt. She nodded sometimes, showing that she was paying attention. When Lila finished speaking, Ms. Hana leaned back slightly and spoke. "Thank you for sharing," she said. "I know it was not easy. You did very well." Lila's eyes filled with tears.
"Thank you," she whispered. Ms.
Hana smiled gently. "Now we will make a plan. First, we need to make sure you have a safe place to stay. Then we can talk about what kind of support you need, like counseling or legal help. We can also help you find a job or a training program if you want. Lila nodded slowly. I would like that. I want to start over. I want to learn new skills. I want to do something meaningful. Ms. Hannah looked at Mara. And you, Mara? She said. Thank you for bringing her here. It is important for Lila to have someone she trusts. If you can, it would be helpful for you to stay involved, but only if you feel comfortable. Mara nodded. I want to help, she said. I want to be there for her. Ms. Hannah smiled. That's wonderful. Ms. Hannah asked Lila a few questions, gently and calmly. She asked about her current situation, about her family, about her health, and about her goals. Lila answered as best as she could. She spoke honestly, and her voice sounded stronger each time. After the meeting, Miss Hannah explained what would happen next. She said they would arrange a safe place for Lila to stay for a few days while they worked on a long-term plan. She also said they would connect Lila with a counselor who could help her deal with her feelings and fears. Lila looked relieved. Thank you, she said. She knew that Lila was moving forward. She knew that the fear would not disappear overnight, but she could see that Lila was taking control of her life again. When they left the community center, the sun was shining brightly. Lila looked more relaxed. She seemed lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from her shoulders. On the way back to Mara's apartment, they walked slowly. Lila looked around at the city with new eyes. She seemed to notice things she had never seen before. The color of the sky, the sound of birds, the way people smiled at each other. Mara, Lila said quietly, I want to thank you again. I don't know what I would have done without you. Mara smiled. You don't have to thank me, she said. You did the hard part. You took the first step. Lila nodded. I know, but you gave me the courage. Mara felt a warmth in her heart. She realized that she had not only helped Lila, she had also helped herself. She had found purpose. She had found someone to care about. That evening, Mara and Lila returned home. Lila looked tired, but she also looked hopeful. She sat on the couch and rested while Mara made dinner. Mara noticed that Lila was quieter than usual, and she seemed to be thinking deeply. After dinner, Lila turned to Mara. Mara, she said, I have been thinking about my promise. Mara looked at her. What promise? Lila smiled slightly. The promise I made to repay you. I think I know how. Mara's eyes widened. How? Lila took a deep breath. I want to help other people who are in situations like mine. I want to share my story. I want to show them that it is possible to leave and start over. Mara nodded slowly. That sounds like a good idea. Lila continued. I want to volunteer at the community center. I want to help people who are scared. I want to be a voice for them. Mara felt proud. She could see that Lila was not only healing, but also growing. She was becoming stronger, and she was turning her pain into something positive. Do you think you can do that? Mara asked. Lila nodded. Yes, I think I can. I want to. Mara smiled. I believe in you. Lila's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of hope. She looked at Mara and said, Thank you for believing in me. You changed my life. Mara felt her heart swell. She realized that this was more than just a promise. It was a bond between two people who had found each other at the right time. That night, Mara lay in bed and thought about everything that had happened. She thought about how far Lila had come in just a few days. She thought about the courage it took to speak the truth. She thought about the promise that had started it all. Mara closed her eyes and whispered softly, "Maybe this is what life is for. Maybe it is to help each other." And as she drifted to sleep, she felt a sense of peace. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she also knew that she was not alone. She had opened her door to a stranger, and that stranger had opened a door to a new life for both of them. The morning after the meeting at the community center, Mara woke up feeling a quiet calm. She looked around her apartment and saw that Lila was still asleep on the couch, covered with a blanket. The sun was shining through the window, and the room looked warm and bright. Mara felt a sense of peace she had not felt in a long time. She made breakfast quietly, trying not to wake Lila. She thought about everything that had happened in the last few days. It seemed like a dream. She had opened her door to a stranger, and now that stranger was becoming a friend. She had helped someone who needed her, and in return, she had found a new purpose. Mara smiled to herself. She felt proud, but she also felt a little scared. She knew that the future was still uncertain. She knew that Lila still had challenges ahead, but she also knew that Lila was stronger now. She could see it in her face. She could see it in her eyes. When Lila woke up, she looked rested. She stretched and yawned, and then she smiled at Mara. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," Mara replied. "How do you feel?" Lila took a deep breath. "I feel better. I feel like I can breathe." Mara smiled. "That's good." They ate breakfast together, and for a moment, everything felt normal. It felt like a simple morning in a simple home. Mara realized that this was the kind of normal life she had always wanted, but she had never known it could be shared with someone else. After breakfast, Lila said, "I need to go to the community center today. Ms. Hannah said she will help me with the next steps. She said she will arrange a safe place for me." Mara nodded. "Okay, I will go with you if you want." Lila shook her head gently. "No, I want to do this on my own. I want to feel independent. But thank you for offering." Mara respected her decision. She understood that Lila needed to feel strong and capable. She needed to prove to herself that she could do things alone. Lila left with a small bag, and Mara watched her go. As Lila walked away, Mara felt a strange emptiness. She realized that she had grown used to having Lila around. She realized that she would miss her, but she also felt proud. She knew that Lila was taking steps toward a better life. That afternoon, Mara went to the community center to check in. She wanted to see how Lila was doing. Ms. and Ms. Hannah greeted her with a warm smile. "Hello, Mara," Ms. Hannah said. "Thank you for coming. Lila is doing well. She is strong." Mara felt a sense of relief. "That's good to hear." Ms. Hannah continued. "She will be staying at a safe place for a while. We are also arranging counseling sessions for her. She has expressed interest in learning new skills and volunteering." Mara smiled. "That's wonderful." Miss Hanana nodded.
"Yes, she is very brave."
She is using her experience to help others. She wants to be a voice for people who are scared. Mara felt proud of Lila. She also felt a sense of hope for the future. She realized that Lila's story was not just about pain. It was also about strength, courage, and new beginnings. As days passed, Mara continued her life at the factory. Her work remained the same, but her thoughts were different. She no longer felt like she was living in a quiet, empty world. She felt like she was part of something bigger. She felt like her life had meaning. Every weekend, Mara visited Lila at the community center. They talked about simple things, but also about their dreams. Leela shared her plans. She wanted to take classes. She wanted to learn how to work in an office. She wanted to become independent. She wanted to help others who were going through difficult situations. Mara listened and supported her. She helped Lila with small things like filling out forms or practicing interviews. She felt happy when Lila smiled. She felt proud when Lila spoke confidently. One day, Lila invited Mara to a small event at the community center. It was a gathering of people who had received help and support. There were stories, music, and food. The room was full of people, all with different backgrounds and different struggles, but they were all there for the same reason, to support each other. Lila stood up in front of everyone and spoke. Mara watched her from the back of the room. Lila's voice was clear and steady. She shared her story, but she did not focus on the pain. She focused on the strength she found inside herself. She spoke about how she left, how she found help, and how she wanted to support others. Mara felt tears in her eyes. She felt proud and emotional. She realized that the promise Lila made had become real. Lila had repaid her in a way that Mara could never have imagined. After the event, Lila came to Mara and hugged her. "Thank you," she whispered.
"For everything." Mara hugged her back. "You did it," she said.
"You did it on your own," Lila smiled. "No, I didn't do it alone. You were there. You believed in me." Mara shook her head gently. "You believed in yourself. I only helped you see it." Lila looked at her with a serious expression. "You changed my life, Mara, and you changed yours too." Mara smiled. "Maybe we changed each other." As time passed, Lila moved into a safe place arranged by the community center. She started taking classes and working part-time. She learned new skills and made new friends. She grew more confident every day. Mara continued to support her, but she also began to notice something else. She noticed that she was changing too. She was becoming more open, more confident, and more hopeful. She started to speak to her neighbors more often. She started to participate in small community events. She began to feel connected to the world again. One evening, Mara sat alone in her apartment, thinking about how much had changed in her life. She looked at the empty couch and thought about the first night Lila came to her door. She remembered the fear she felt, the decision she made, and the promise Lila made in return. Mara smiled softly. She realized that her life was no longer the same. It had become richer and more meaningful. She had learned that helping someone else could also help her heal. She had learned that kindness was not a weakness, but a strength. Mara picked up her phone and wrote a message to Lila. She wrote, "I'm proud of you. You are doing great. Thank you for coming into my life." Lila replied quickly, "Thank you, Mara. You are my family now." Mara felt a warmth in her heart. She realized that family did not always mean blood. Family could be chosen. Family could be found in a small act of kindness. As the years passed, Mara and Lila stayed in touch. They continued to support each other. They celebrated each other's successes. They shared their hopes and dreams. They remained connected, even as their lives grew and changed. One day, Mara received a message from Lila. She wrote, "I got a job offer. I will start next month. I want to thank you for believing in me. I want to invite you to my first day." Mara felt a rush of pride and happiness. She knew that Lila had worked hard to reach this point. She knew that Lila had faced many challenges, but she had never given up. Mara replied, "I will be there. I am proud of you." When the day arrived, Mara stood outside the building where Lila would start her new job. She watched Lila walk confidently toward the entrance. Lila looked happy and strong. She looked like a new person. Mara felt tears in her eyes again. She realized that the promise Lila made had changed everything. It had changed both of their lives. Mara smiled to herself and whispered, "Let me in, I'll reward you." And she understood that the reward was not money or gifts. The reward was a life that had meaning, a life filled with hope, kindness, and love.